Kalapani Territory. The Kalapani Territory is an area under Indian administration as part of Pithoragarh district in the Kumaon Division of the Uttarakhand state, but it is also claimed by Nepal since 1997. According to Nepal's claim, it lies in Darchula district, Sudurpashchim Province. The territory represents part of the basin of the Kalapani River, one of the headwaters of the Kali River in the Himalayas at an altitude of 3,605,200 meters. The valley of Kalapani, with the Lipulekh Pass at the top, forms the Indian route to Kailash Manasarovar, an ancient pilgrimage site. It is also the traditional trading route to Tibet for the Bhotiyas of Kumaon and the Tinkar Valley of Nepal. The Kali River forms the boundary between India and Nepal in this region. However, India states that the headwaters of the river are not included in the boundary. Here the border runs along the watershed. This is a position dating back to British India c. 1865. Nepal has another pass, the Tinkar Pass or Tinkar Lipu, close to the area. After India closed the Lipulekh Pass in the aftermath of the 1962 Sino-Indian War, much of the Bhotiya trade used to pass through the Tinkar Pass. The Nepalese protests regarding the Kalapani territory started in 1997 after India and China agreed to reopen the Lipulekh Pass. Since that time, Nepalese maps have shown the area up to the Kalapani River, measuring 35 square kilometers, as part of Nepal's Darchula district. A joint technical committee of Indian and Nepalese officials have been discussing the issue since 1998, along with other border issues. But the matter has not yet been resolved. On 20 May 2020, Nepal released a new map of its own territory that expanded its claim an additional 335 square kilometers up to the Kumaon River, including Kalapani, Lipulekh, and Lipyadhura. It did not explain why a new claim arose. According to the Kathmandu Post, residents of Kalapani, Lipulekh, and Lipyadhura, which India has claimed for decades, were not counted after the 1961 Nepal census. Geography and tradition. According to the Almora District Gazetteer 1911, Kalapani literally, dark water, is the name given to a remarkable collection of springs near the Kalapani village. The springs rise from the northeastern declivity of a peak known as Bayans Rikai at an elevation of 14,220 feet 4,330 m and flow into a stream in the valley elevation 12,000 ft. The stream, bearing the name Kalapani River, is formed from two streams, says the gazetteer, one rising from the western end of the Lipulekh Pass Lipu Gad and another from the western declivity of the Kuntis Peak Tara Gad. Modern maps show two further streams joining from the southeast, which arise at the Parvet and Point 6172 respectively. The latter of these, called Panka Gad, joins the river very near the Kalapani village. The gazetteer continues to state that the united stream of Kalapani flows 5 miles southwest, where it is joined by the Kumaon River that arises from the Lipyadhura Pass near the village of Gunji. After this union, the river is called the Kali River. Language being not entirely logical, the term Kali River is often applied to the river from the location of the springs themselves. The springs are considered sacred by the people of the area and erroneously regarded as the origin of the Kali River. However, they had been regarded as a landmark by the British from the very first survey undertaken by W. J. Webb in 1816. The area on both sides of the Kali River is called Bayans, which was a Pargana district in Mughal times. It is populated by Bayansis, who speak a West Himalayish language closely related to the Zhangjung language once spoken in West Tibet. The Bayansis practice transhumance, living in their traditional homes in the high Himalayas during the summer and moving down to towns such as Darchula in the winter. While high-altitude pastoralism is the mainstay of the Bayansis, trade with western Tibet was also a key part of their livelihood. Both the Lipyadhura Pass and the Lipulekh Pass were frequently used by the Bayansis, but the Lipulekh Pass leading to the Tibetan trading town of Burang or Taklakot, was the most popular. To the southeast of the Kalapani River is the Tinkar Valley, presently in Nepal, with large villages of Changru and Tinkar. This area is also populated by Byansis. They have another pass referred to as Tinkar Pass that leads to Burang. History. Early 19th century. Following the unification of Nepal under Prithvi Narayan Shah, Nepal attempted to enlarge its domains, conquering much of Sikkim in the east and in the west, the basins of Gandaki and Karnali, and the Uttarakhand regions of Garhwal and Kumaon. This brought them in conflict with the British, who controlled directly or indirectly the North Indian plains between Delhi and Calcutta. A series of campaigns termed the Anglo-Nepalese War occurred in 1814–1816. In 1815, the British General Austerliny evicted the Nepalese from Garhwal and Kumaon across the Kali River, ending the 25-year rule of the region by Nepal. Austerliny offered peace terms to the Nepalese, demanding British oversight through a resident and the delimitation of Nepal's territories corresponding roughly to its present-day boundaries in the east and west. The Nepalese refusal to accede to these terms led to another campaign the following year, targeting the Kathmandu Valley, after which the Nepalese capitulated. The resulting agreement, the Sugauli Treaty, states in its Article 5, "The King of Nepal renounces for himself, his heirs and successors, all claims to and connection with the countries lying to the west of the river Kali, and engages never to have any concern with those countries or the inhabitants thereof." Even though the article was meant to set Kali River as the boundary of Nepal, initially the British administrators retained control of the entire Byan's region both to the east and west of the Kali/Kalapani River, stating that it had been traditionally part of Kumaon. In 1817, the Nepalese made a representation to the British, claiming that they were entitled to the areas to the east of Kali. After consideration, the British Governor-General in Council accepted the demand. The Byan's region to the east of Kali was transferred to Nepal, dividing the Byan's Pargana across the two countries. Not being satisfied with this, the Nepalese also extended a claim to the Kathai Valley further west, stating that the Kathai-Yangtze stream, the western branch of the headwaters, should be considered the main Kali River. Surveyor W. J. Webb and other British officials showed that the lesser stream flowing from the Kalapani Springs had always been recognized as the main branch of the Kali, and had in fact given its name to the river. Consequently, the British Indian government retained the Kathai Valley. Late 19th century. Sometime around 1865, the British shifted the border near Kalapani to the watershed of the Kalapani River instead of the river itself, thereby claiming the area now called the Kalapani Territory. This is consistent with the British position that the Kali River begins only from the Kalapani Springs, which meant that the agreement of Sugauli did not apply to the region above the springs. Scholars Manandhar and Quarala believe that the shifting of the border was motivated by strategic reasons. The inclusion of the highest point in the region, Point 6172, provides an unhindered view of the Tibetan plateau. For Manandhar and Quarala, this represents an unauthorized, unilateral move on the part of the British. However, Nepal was effectively a British protected state at that time, even though the British termed it an independent state with special treaty relations. Around the same time that the British claimed the Kalapani territory, they had also ceded to Nepalese control the western Tarai regions. Nepal's boundaries had moved on from those of the Sugauli Treaty. 20th century. Kalapani dispute 1998–2019. Nepal virtually ignored the Kalapani issue, the 35 km2 of area between the Lipu Gad/Kalapani River and the watershed of the river from 1961. In September 1998, Nepal agreed with India that all border disputes, including Kalapani, would be resolved through bilateral talks. However, despite several rounds of negotiations from 1998 to the present, the issue remains unresolved. Nepal has laid claim to all the areas east of the Lipu Gad/Kalapani River, their contention being that the Lipu Gad was in fact the Kali River up to its source. They wanted the western border shifted 5.5 km westwards so as to include the Lipulekh Pass. Indian officials responded that the administrative records dating back to 1830s show that the Kalapani area had been administered as part of the Pithoragarh district, then a part of the Almora district. India also denied the Nepalese contention that Lipu Gad was the Kali River. In the Indian view, the Kali River begins only after Lipu Gad is joined by other streams arising from the Kalapani springs. Therefore, the Indian border leaves the midstream of river near Kalapani and follows the high watershed of the streams that join it. In May 2020, India inaugurated a new link road to the Kailash Manasarovar. Nepal objected to the exercise and said that it was violative of the prior understanding that boundary issues would be resolved through negotiation. India reaffirmed its commitment to negotiation but stated that the road follows the pre-existing route. Limpia claims. The CPN-ML faction led by Bamdev Gautam, which split off from CPN-UML in 1998, laid more expansive claims than the Nepalese government. Several Nepalese intellectuals drove these claims, chief among them being Budai Narayan Shrestha, the former Director General of the Land Survey Department. According to the intellectuals, the Kali River is in fact the Kathayangti River that arises below the Limpia range. So they claim the entire area of Kumaon up to the Kathay Valley, close to 400 km2 in total. Up to 2000, the Nepalese government did not subscribe to these expansive demands. In a statement to the Indian Parliament in 2000, the Indian Foreign Minister Jaswant Singh suggested that Nepal had questioned the source of the Kalapani River, but he denied that there was any dispute regarding the matter. On 20 May 2020, Nepal for the first time released a map that followed through with the more expansive claims, showing the entire area to the east of Kathayangti River as part of their territory. On 13 June 2020, the bill seeking to give legal status to the new map was unanimously approved by the lower house in the Nepal parliament. Gallery